Naples, Florida. Where should I even start? It was such a short but very interesting and very challenging experience. As I mentioned in my previous video, my wife and I stayed in San Diego until the end of September, got back home for about a month, and embarked on our next exploration journey. The destination this time was Naples, Florida. We didn't know anything about the place, but knowing one single person was enough for us to pull the trigger and just say, all right, let's go live there for a while. My signature move, of course, was to book an Airbnb for the first month. That was the only secured thing that we had. It was a little private room in a house near a lake and had super cool avocado trees, lounge chairs, a very nice floating porch in the back with some kayaks, and a very interesting, quirky, jumping, flopping fish that I've never seen before. As always, I deliberately didn't do any research whatsoever about the city. How is it organized? Good places to look for a job, where to look for apartment, places to avoid. Ignorance is bliss. I just like to be surprised and see things for the first time when I actually get there. Not to familiarize myself from pictures, videos, reviews, and when I get there to feel like I've already been in all those places. I wanted to experience Naples with fresh eyes and without any preconceived notions. One thing that I remember our friend mentioning to us before we got there was the fact that there's really no public transport in Naples. She mentioned that there's few buses here and there, but you can rely on public transport to get around. When I heard that, for some reason, it didn't fully register with me. From living in big cities like Boston and San Diego, I was a little skeptical. What do you mean you can't rely on it? Surely if there's no subway or a trolley system in the city, the buses will get the job done. We'll be fine. Well, I was wrong. Living in Boston and San Diego previously, I thought that all states and cities are kind of similar, you know? In Boston, for example, it was great. I walked to the gym. If I wanted to, I could walk to the bank, to the grocery store, pharmacy. Everything was nearby in a walking distance, and if not, it's like one trolley stop away. I thought that even if Naples wasn't built so conveniently, it couldn't be much different. But boy, oh boy, was I wrong. Everything is so fucking spread out. You want to go to the gym? Can't walk there. Get in the car, drive 20 minutes. You need some milk, eggs. You want to go to the grocery store? 15-minute drive. Time for a haircut? 20-minute drive in a whole different direction. Everything is spread out in separate little plazas all around the city, with the exception of two streets, 5th and 3rd Avenue, where you have the majority of the bars and the restaurants and all the different galleries, but there is no place that you can go and feel like you're in an area that has everything that you need around you. So after exploring Naples for a few days, I had to accept the fact that we cannot function and survive in this place without buying a car. The one thing I was trying very hard to avoid. Considering that we planned to stay there for not more than 6 to 8 months, buying a car felt like it was going to chain me down and take away part of my flexibility. Also, the anxiety of having absolutely no idea how things worked in America. The buying process, documents, insurance. I remember the confusion looking at different listings and seeing clean title, salvage title, rebuild title, so many different things that I had no idea what they mean. And then going deeper and actually researching those things made it even worse. Seeing that people are getting scammed, title jumping, and the possibility of getting a car and not being able to pass a smoke check. That was the last thing I needed at the moment. Considering that meanwhile, we had to find a job and a place to stay, but realizing that we cannot even begin that process without a car, I had no option but to roll up my sleeves and learn everything I needed to learn in order to buy a car without getting scammed. or ending up with a wrecked lemon that has its check engine light cleared prior to my test drive. So fast forward a few weeks later, after browsing all the different listings nearby in Naples, Cape Coral, Marco Island, and all the different areas around, I found a 2012 Kia Forte that I bought for $2,400. But yeah, I remember finding the urges of not buying an old Audi or BMW or Mercedes that looked cool, but settled down with that Kia because I wanted something that had a smaller chance on giving up on me and it would be easy to resell down the road. So with the most important thing taken care of, it was finally time for us to start looking for apartment and a job. We were finally able to move around. It was quite a strange feeling and situation though, to have bought a car but still being homeless and unemployed. However, time was ticking and we only had 2 weeks left on the Airbnb. So every day we drove around Naples looking for a job and looking for some apartment to rent. Luckily, our friend introduced us to a Bulgarian realtor in the city that was very helpful, and in no time she found us a 2-bedroom apartment in a small community that was just perfect for us. So we moved right in. Shortly after, we succeeded in our job hunt as well, and here we were once again crawling from the bottom, putting things in place and getting into a new routine in a brand new city. It's a feeling like no other. Emerging from the fog of uncertainty, rolling up our sleeves, and building a life from scratch in a place we barely knew. It was like a relief of taking a full deep breath after weeks of suffocating. So season in Naples was about to start and more people were coming to this little city. And things were just going great. We were pretty busy in our restaurant jobs and every time that we had off, we spent it exploring all the cool places around, enjoyed the beautiful white sand beaches and sunsets over the Gulf of Mexico. As things were going great and life was good, people were singing, dancing, and having fun. All the streets were packed, almost as if somebody just flipped a switch. Everything just changed overnight. Closing the restaurant on March 12th after a great busy night, on the next morning we were notified that the restaurants are closing for a few days. And the rest is history. You know how it started. Few days became 2 weeks. 2 weeks became 2 months, and pretty quickly we realized that things were not going back to normal anytime soon. So what did we do? Booked the first flight to Bulgaria and started getting ready to leave. There was one problem though, the fucking car. Just living there and paying rent without earning a single dollar, we were bleeding money fast. So we booked a flight departing in 3 days. I had 3 days to sell the car. I cleaned it up, took some nice pictures, and posted listings in every website you can imagine and just crossed my fingers. Luckily, as I mentioned, I got a great deal on the car and I managed to sell it in 2 days, even with a little profit. So we took care of that, that's out of the way. But the lease that we signed for a full year, we had to break and forget about our money deposit. But what was the alternative though? Stay there, locked down? No thanks. If I had to be locked at a house, I would at least prefer to be back home with my family and close to my friends. So we got back at the end of March and honestly, I have zero regrets. I don't regret breaking my lease and losing my money. I don't regret my 2 restaurants where I worked and earned my income shutting down. Not at all. Because going back home for 6 months during the summer was genuinely one of the best periods of my life. After a 2-week lockdown upon arrival, I spent the remainder of my time... What is going on? Oh my god. It's hailing. After a 2-week lockdown upon arrival, I spent the remainder of my time traveling, hiking in the mountains, cliff jumping, and just having a great time with my friends and family. I'm actually extremely grateful for the way things turned out. Yes, I could have used a few extra months in Florida to explore around and travel, but still, I had a great time. We successfully overcame the challenges in the beginning, and for me, that was the most valuable experience. Even though we only spent 4 months, that was enough time for me to realize that Naples was not a place that I would go back to. So let's talk real quick about few things that I loved and few things that I hated about this city. First, something that I really appreciated and admired was the fact that everything is just immaculate. Everything is super organized, streets are clean, all the buildings look like they were just built with fresh paint, beautiful decorations, plants and palm trees were perfectly maintained all around the city, and the standards are just very high. Another thing that really stands out is the fact that everybody's just normal. There are no crazy people screaming and doing all sorts of weird things. No homeless people laying on the sidewalks. Personally, I really enjoy that aspect. Also, something that you notice during the season, and especially around 5th and 3rd Avenue, is the super lively vibe. There are painters painting by the galleries, artists playing the guitar, people singing, and all sorts of different activities taking place next to the restaurants and the different galleries around. On top of all of that, the city of Naples is just beautiful. With the white sand beaches, the beautiful nature parks, places like Venetian Village, and the water infrastructure with the different channels and canals, it resembles Venice more than Naples. And one last thing is that there are a lot of interesting places around worth visiting. The huge Everglades State Park, Marco Island, Key West, Cape Coral, so many beautiful places to go. With that being said, on the other side, there were few things that I was not so thrilled about. The alligators. Walking in the park next to the lake and seeing those alligators laying on the grass or swimming in the water is one thing, but when these things come out on the streets and on the boulevards, yeah, that's a little unnecessary. The white sand beaches and the warm water on the Gulf of Mexico are amazing, but there's one thing that periodically ruins it completely. Every tourist's nightmare, red tides. Nothing ruins a vacation better than the smell of rotting fish and adverse health effects. Irritated eyes and throat, dry cough, having to stay out of the water, dead fish on the shore, everything just screams, get away. The last thing I was not so thrilled about was the weather. I guess I might be a little spoiled from living in San Diego and have high weather standards, I don't know, but in Naples, pretty much the only time I was able to go out and enjoy the weather was from 6 to 8 in the morning. Early in the morning when it's nice and breezy, before the clock hits 8 a.m. when it just gets extremely hot, all the way until the sun sets down. And then it does indeed get a little cooler when the sun sets down, but you cannot survive outside. The mosquitoes will eat you alive. So you have a very short period of unbothered enjoyment throughout the day. So yeah, Naples was a pretty short experience, but it was packed with a lot of valuable experience. And that marks the end of part 3 of the first generation American series, my friends. And I'll catch you in the next one where I'll take you to Washington, D.C. See ya. Ciao.